The purpose of a Section 14C site visit is to ensure compliance with the laws governing special minimum wages. It begins with a conference involving a DOL investigator, sometimes two investigators working as a team, and a CRP representative. Here they'll discuss the CRP's mission, its operations, staff makeup, and the consumers it serves, while also confirming that the 14C certificate is current. Next, the investigator or team will tour the facility, noting its physical layout, the consumers employed there, the work done, equipment involved, as well as the products that result.
The tour of the CRP is a very important part of the investigation. It gives the investigator a feel of the CRP, the type of work being done, and the nature of the consumers that the CRP is serving. It also gives the investigator a chance to talk one-on-one with the representative of the CRP.
Following the tour, the visit continues with a review of consumer files. Investigators may select files of consumers observed during the tour, checking the standard and prevailing wage for these jobs, as well as the consumer's productivity measurement history. At the outset, investigators should make certain that a disability impairs a worker's productivity when performing a specific job. This means reviewing the disability documentation in the consumer's file, including the medical diagnosis and other documents proving that the consumer is disabled for the work. Although the Wage and Hour Division is authorized to review these documents, investigators should remember they are confidential. The consumer's file will contain information about whether he or she is paid hourly or by piece. It also contains the consumer's productivity ratings, done at least every 6 months, and outlining the work and calculations associated with it.
The consumer file must contain documentation of the disability. There must be documentation of disability for the job being performed, and there must be a productivity study for hourly paid consumers, and this must be kept up to date.
Investigators then go to the production area to review the job description and task analysis documents. A job description defines the job, the consumer's role and responsibilities, and provides examples of routine work. A task analysis details the steps involved with performing the job. These documents allow investigators to verify the accuracy of the prevailing wage surveys and work measurements. A consumer's wage is based on a comparison of his or her productivity to experienced workers not disabled for the work, performing the same job in the same geographic area. Determining the actual wage is the responsibility of the CRP and begins with a survey of rates experienced workers earn. This is called a prevailing wage survey. The CRP must annually collect wage data from several firms, typically at least 3, that do similar work in the vicinity. An experienced worker is one who's mastered the basic elements of the job. Ordinarily, that means completing the probationary or training period and receiving at least 1 pay raise on the job. The survey should also include a job description, defining the duties, tasks, and the equipment needed to do the work correctly. The wage data is then used to determine the prevailing wage. This is calculated by taking an average, either a simple or weighted average, of all the data the CRP collects. The key is to apply the same averaging method to all data. Most important to calculating the prevailing wage is rounding up any fraction of a penny to the next penny. The next step, converting the prevailing wage into a commensurate wage, requires establishing an on-site standard for the job. This is done by measuring individuals not disabled for the job as they do the work. Quality and quantity are the only factors to consider when setting the standard. Averaging the data from the tests will yield the CRP's standard for the job. Now the productivity of each consumer can be measured and compared to the standard. The commensurate wage is determined by his or her productivity against the standard. If the standard is acceptable, the investigator can confirm the accuracy of various consumer commensurate hourly wage payments by checking the calculations of the consumer time studies. Simple math errors, often the result of improper rounding, are not uncommon. The investigator will also check to make sure the CRP has properly used the rework hourly wage determinant method, or if appropriate, the 90-10 hourly wage method. The investigator should examine the prevailing wage study paperwork, or if applicable, the Federal Service contract wage determination. From this, the consumer's hourly wage can be confirmed as a percentage based on productivity of the prevailing hourly wage. If the CRP production standard is inaccurate for a specific job, it may require further investigation. This process begins with a review of the job's task analysis and the production standard and extends to other areas, including prevailing wage surveys. Ultimately, the CRP may be required to pay back wages, going back up to 3 years, to all consumers involved with the job. CRP supervisors may uncover or prevent many errors by doing annual reviews of the task analysis for ongoing jobs. Likewise, new CRP supervisors might review consumer files to acquaint themselves with the data and the method and to assess its reliability. The idea is not to wait for an investigation before reviewing documentation and data.
The value of doing regular reviews is that you can find a change in process, or you can find a mathematical error that could cause the process not to be properly done, and the result of this would be not paying a consumer the proper pay, which you would have to go back and pay the back pay.
By regulation, hourly wage consumers must be time studied within 30 days of being hired, every 6 months after that, or within 30 days of changing jobs. Remember, a disability does not necessarily permit an employer to pay a consumer a special minimum wage. Consumers may have a disability for one type of work, but not for another. Investigators and CRP staff should understand that documentation supporting a consumer's disability must be on file, as well as proof that the disability impairs job performance. This, along with careful recording of compensable work activities, will assure that consumers will be fairly and accurately paid for the work they do.
It's important that the CRP maintain accurate, current records because that's their statement of compliance. That's how they tell the government that I am complying with 14C.